Look, make all the Eastern Bloc jokes you want. These dudes are about to come in and ball out for Brad Underwood and the Illini.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shader. Joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. I want to remind you, you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are here with us, all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. We'd love to hang out with you in there. That link's in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. Joining me on the show today, our good buddy, Mr. Sunny Verma, the head host. I don't know why I said head host. The only host, the man, the myth, the legend, the host of Locked On Illini, Sunny Verma. You can follow him on Twitter at Talk Illini. I don't know how you stole that Twitter thing, but way to go, Sonny. That's a great one, man. I absolutely love it. So we're going to be doing a preview of Illinois today on the show, looking ahead at the biggest storylines, all the Eastern Bloc conversation that's been happening. Got to get them to campus, for crying out loud. We're going to project ahead to starters and rotation. We're going to talk non-con schedule, which literally just got officially announced on Monday. We're going to make some predictions. We'll talk floor and ceiling for Illinois this year. Also, as a quick note, John Rothstein announced on Monday that Big Ten Media Day is going to be Thursday, October 9th. So, Sonny, I know you're geeked for Thursday, October 9th, my man.
It's right in my backyard. You know, it's going to be a nice little 25-minute drive. I can't wait. I hope you decide to come.
I know. My next year, that is my goal for hitting a whole bunch of media days. I'll explain later, but that's kind of the goal in my head with that. So, Sonny, here's where I want to talk. Just I'll very quickly give the numbers back from last year so folks can kind of get in mind. And then I want to look at the biggest storylines of this season. Last year, Illinois 22-13, 12-8 in the Big Ten, tied for 7th with Oregon. Lost in the Big Ten quarterfinals to Maryland after knocking off Iowa in the second round. Then in the NCAA tournament, beat Xavier before falling to the Kentucky Wildcats. Obviously, look, you know the story. I know the story, folks. Kasparas Jakučionis came in and just blew up. I did not expect it. Sonny might have, but good grief. Led the way in points, assists, and turnovers too, but whatever. Chipped in a bunch of rebounds, 5.7 of those to go along with his 15 points and 4.7 assists. And so, Sonny, that's just kind of a quick look back. But I think that's actually where I want to start is the Kasparas Jakučionis of it all. Obviously, we know, and we're about to talk all these Eastern Bloc guys that are coming in. Do you think that really paved the way for Coach Underwood being able to land all of these fellas this year?
Yeah, I mean, what I've always appreciated about Brad Underwood is for years back, he takes it a season at a time, right? Like when it came to the transfer portal, Brad was very early here. He got Dane Danger when, the transfer portal wasn't exactly in vogue at the time. He's always looking ahead, trying to figure out where the market isn't quite as efficient as it needs to be. And so when he brought back Orlando Antigua, who's one of the best assistant coaches in the entire country, Orlando's got great relationships internationally. And Jeff Alexander is another assistant coach who's basically just been hanging out in Europe for a couple of years now, making these sort of connections. Now, the funny thing is, Illinois was actually after Igor Danim last year, and that was the guy that they were really gung-ho and trying to get. And then when Igor's price went a little higher than I think Brad Underwood was wanting to go, they noticed this Kasparas kid in their one-on-one matchups would just have better numbers. And so they went all in on Kasparas. And, they've built really good relationships with Montenegro, Barcelona. And I talk about this on my show all the time. A high schooler here domestically, they know what the Blue Bloods are. North Carolina, the Dukes, the Kansases. In Europe, Illinois is becoming the brand name that these kids are going to look to because, you have Kasparas Jakučionis, who gave Illinois a shot. What happens? He came here and he went on to the NBA. He developed and went to the NBA. And that's kind of like because you trust that relationship Illinois, I think, is trying to go that route because those guys cost a lot less than the top 20 players in high school domestically too, and they're playing against men, whereas here the high schools are playing against other high schoolers. So I like the direction Brad Underwood's going in. I think this year is going to be a great example to find out what it has a chance to succeed or not.
And so, Sonny, let's talk about that. I mean, it's been this joke all offseason long, but to me, I mean, maybe some people are joking in like what's Brad Underwood doing? I doing that because to me, it's like, oh, this is going to be hilarious because these dudes are about to come in and absolutely ball out. And so I think that's where it's at, is it's the Illini that are laughing because this crew is going to be legit. Would you just unpack for us who all the itches, the ICs are that are coming in? Obviously, Tomislav sticking around from last year, but would you just unpack for us everyone else that's joining him?
Sure. We have Tomislav Ivisic, who should be the starting center. Obviously, I know you guys have talked about this on the show. His brother, Zvonimir Ivisic, who played for Kentucky and then Arkansas last year, he's going to be joining his brother in Champaign this year. We have David Mirkovic, who is an 18-year-old he's going to be a freshman. He's already started practicing with the team. And so he's joined the squad as well as Mihailo Petrovic, who is a 22-year-old point guard. He was in the running for the MVP in the Adriatic League. And Isaac, I'm telling you, when you're doing your hot takes section of the show, Mihailo Petrovic is the guy I think you got to key in on and be early. And just remember, you heard it here first.
Okay, Sunny Verma dropping bombs here in mid-August. We got to look out for that. And then obviously Andrei Stojakovic coming over from Cal as well, Paige's son. Different there because he's a transfer coming in from within the states. Zvonimir Tomislav, obviously Croatian. Mihailo Petrovic is Serbian, and then Mirkovic is Montenegrin. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Interesting. And he comes over from SC Derby, which they've supplied several young men to college basketball, including Luka Bokovac, that's going to North Carolina this year, and some others, right? The Ivisic has played there too, is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So one interesting stat is like David Mirkovic's stats playing there were actually superior to what Tomislav's were.
Really?
And at a younger age. So again, that's what kind of has us kind of a little excited about what he might bring to the court this year.
And we're going to have to talk about that certainly in a little bit, projecting what this team is going to be and what these guys are going to do. So, Sonny, I know with so many guys coming over from Europe to so many colleges, I know there's a lot of conversation right now about, it's kind of a 3-hurdle process of getting them admitted to the school, getting them a visa to come to the States, and then getting NCAA clearance. With both Petrovic and Mirkovic, who are the two guys coming over, where are we at with them in their process?
Well, Mirkovic is here, and he's been on the court. I believe he's practiced. Yeah, he's practicing with the team. So that looks like it's all clear. We got a little nervous with Petrovic because while they announced his commitment, they actually announced that commitment the same weekend that Paige's son was here visiting for an official visit. It went kind of under the radar, but there was not much talk since then. And to the point where people even noticed that Petrovic had taken off all the Illini references on his social media. Like the sleuths nowadays, this is what they kind of pay attention to. But I think maybe 2 weeks ago, the Illini officially announced Petrovic, as a commit. So now we're just kind of at the point where he's not stateside yet. As much as I do when it comes to like what it takes to dot the I's, cross the T's with the paperwork, especially, with the new rules with this administration and whatnot. Yeah. I do think I have reached out to a couple of people. They think it's sooner rather than later for Mihailo to be joining this team. But man, this team really does need Petrovic practicing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with what he can do from a point guard standpoint and helping run the team. And that's what we want to start to look at here in just a second, Sonny, is look, Illinois has lost some key guys off to the NBA and to the transfer portal, but they bring in all this other talent as well, both from the transfer portal and freshmen and overseas, along with some returners. How's the mix of this all going to come together? We're going to talk about that in just a second. right after I tell you about Prize Picks, which is the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up in college football. It's not far behind, you guys. So whether you've got your eye on a big name quarterback or a breakout running back, Prize Picks makes it easy for you to get in the game. It's so simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get those picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. I've actually been using Prize Picks for a few seasons now. I really love how simple it is. I can get a lineup in before my coffee even finishes brewing in the morning, Sonny. It's crazy. Prize Picks put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Sonny, like, I love like just going in and finding the stat and picking more. Like, for me, this feels so much more simple than having to put together a whole lineup or something, right? How do you feel about Prize Picks?
I love Prize Picks. For me, it also lets me set the standard of what I should expect a certain player to play. You know, am I overvaluing someone? Am I undervaluing someone? It gives me a good, these guys know what they're doing. So they set the lines, you know, very smart.
That's a great way to look at it, Sonny. I love that. Way to change my mind and help me as well. So if you want to be smart like Sonny, download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. This episode's also brought to you by our good friends at Drip Drop. Man, I tell you what, y'all, I've been loving this bag of Drip Drop that I picked up. It is a classic variety. It's got watermelon, lemon, lime, peach, and passion fruit. I like them all. And so if you're trying to stay on top of your hydration routine, whether it's workouts, long days on campus with school starting, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts. And that's where Drip Drop comes in. It's a doctor-developed and scientifically proven fast hydration drink. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Sonny, man, I love these. Watermelon, lemon, lime, peach, passion fruit. What are you going with out of this bag?
You know, I literally had a passion fruit right before I recorded my episode earlier today because what the product says, it absolutely does. It refreshes your mind, you're ready to go, and you churn out good content.
Man, it's so good. I'm rocking some lemon lime here in my bottle. I'm right with you, man. It keeps my voice going with all these shows we record all the time. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head over to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, that's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Sonny, let's look ahead to the personnel of this team. And I know we just talked some about the Eastern Bloc guys coming in, whether from over in Europe or the guys that were already stateside. But, man, as I look back to last year's team, or this time last year, I don't think I would have seen any world in which both Yakichonis and Will Riley would have been gone off to the NBA draft, and Morez Johnson would be off to Michigan, Trey White to Kansas. How big a blow is it to lose 4 guys of that caliber?
I mean, Will Riley and Kasparis, you could tell, kind of played their way into the NBA. So that one wasn't too much of a surprise. Trey White was somewhat of a surprise because literally the day after we got knocked out of the tournament, he talked about how he couldn't wait to come back to campus and run this back one more time. But I mean, we should have been smarter in hindsight. Trey White has played at a different school every single year he's played in college. So we saw what that was ultimately worth. But I don't like to say his name anymore, but, you know, Morez Johnson was the one that really, really hurt. Morez is a kid who has been committed to the Illini for 4 years. Okay. Nowadays, when people flip their commitments every 3 months, Morez always stayed committed to Brad Underwood and that coaching staff. And he had a very solid freshman year. And so I really thought he was going to be a key player on next year's team and this program moving forward. And so him all of a sudden deciding that he wanted to move on, and obviously he went up north, that was a bit of a shock and, you know, very disappointing. But, you know, that's just what makes these rivalries games great, because Michigan's coming to Champaign next year, and that's going to be a raucous environment.
Oh, you know he is going to hear it from everyone in Assembly Hall. I'm so glad you said that, Sonny, because that one shocked me too. Like Morez with his injury last year, coming back, getting back in the rotation a little bit. I was like, dude, Morez Johnson is about to ball out his sophomore year. He's going to help this front court, team up with Tommy, and then, you know, Zvonimir. Like, I just felt so good about everything he was going to do, and then he's gone. And as you said, I like how you put it, up north. We can't even we on this. Normally we'll say that school's name, but in honor of the Illini fans today, we will not. But look, Sunny, there is a good nucleus coming back, right? 3 of the top 6 scorers: Tomislav Ivisic, Kylan Boswell, Ben Hummertkaus. What does it mean to get those guys back with so many newcomers around them?
Well, I think that's going to be the difference between last year's team and this year's team. Last year's team rode the highs and lows, and you had Kaspersky Yakishonis and Will O'Reilly. But when it comes to college basketball, when you're counting on freshmen, the reason you have those high highs and those low lows. What I like about this year's team is, especially in the offseason, my contacts have told me that Tomislav Ivisic is really taking control of this team.
Good.
Him and Kylan Boswell genuinely understand, like Kylan knows this is his last year playing college basketball. And if he has aspirations to make it to the next level, he's trying to enjoy the moment. And he was one of Illinois' best players the last month of last season. So if he can just continue on the trajectory that he was at the end of the 2024 season, I think we're in pretty good shape. But, bringing in even the new guys that we brought in, don't have the talent that Will Riley and Kaspersky might have, but those guys were 18 years old. Mihailo Petrovic is 22 years old. David Mirkovic is 19, but again, he's played in some of the most crazy atmospheres out in Europe against grown men, and he's competed fairly well. I like the makeup of this team to be able to not have the low lows that last year's team had. It's going to be a little bit more of a veteran team. I think Brad Underwood was very purposeful with this approach. And I hate to allude to him again. I think Brad has ultimately come up with the mindset, and maybe this is a completely different segment for a different episode, where I'd be surprised to see if Illinois really cultivates and goes all in on prep recruiting in the near future, because they did that with Morez, had a great relationship, and he still ended up leaving. So now I think Brad Underwood's of the mindset, hey, year to year, every year, let me build the best roster for this upcoming season, and then I'll figure out what to do after that. And I think this year is a good example of that.
That's so well said. And that is a story that I have heard time and time again from around the country, and Illinois is another great example of that. I love that take, Sunny. That's so good. Now, I want to touch specifically on the 2 guys that came portaling from within the states, Zvonimir Ivisic and Andrei Stojakovic. Obviously, Andrei had a really under-the-radar but massive year at Cal last year for a not great Cal team, but still. And then Zvonimir, his freshman year at Kentucky didn't really get much playing time because of the NCAA taking forever to clear him. And then last year really came on kind of late at Arkansas, but had some injuries that cut things short. Is there a world in which this siblings connection for him and Tommy really helps him come alive, you think?
I think so. And another thing that people don't really realize is the one guy who recruited Zvonimir is on the Illinois coaching staff now. Again, Orlando Antigua was one who was with Calipari, and he brought Zvonimir over to Kentucky. And, last year, sure, Zvonimir's season was kind of up and down, but Orlando wasn't there. And Orlando is one of the best big man developers in the entire country. So I really like the idea of Orlando getting to work with Zvonimir again. Now, keep in mind, Zvonimir didn't come cheap. So Orlando had told Brad Underwood that, you know what? Yeah, let's bring him in. I really like his skill set. I can work with him. And, the ideal scenario for us right now is Tomislav plays great. He becomes an all Big Ten, maybe potential All-American big time center, goes off to the NBA next year. And then maybe Zvonimir can go ahead and slip into his spot the following year and becoming the starting center for next year's team. That's the hope.
Oh man, that would be, to have that level of continuity would be phenomenal. So, Sunny, we've talked about some of the personnel. I know there's some other personnel we could hit on as well. But what I want from you right now is your mid-August starting 5 projection. And I know we got a lot of time to go. I know we've got players to still get to America. But assuming all that works out, what would be your starting 5 today?
There's one position that's really tough. 4 out of the 5 is easy. It's going to be Petrovic and Boswell in the backcourt. Then you're going to have Stojakovic as your small forward, and you're going to have Tommy as your starting center. Now at the 4 spot, it just gets interesting because there's so many options. I'm actually hearing whispers, and I would not be surprised if game 1, the starting power forward is actually Zvonimir. You're going to talk about 14 feet of Ivisic's or Ivisic, however you would say that, starting. I don't know how that would work, especially on the defensive end, but we've seen as of late, Brad Underwood is very much like, let's not worry about the defense. Let's make the other defense stress out and like try to outscore them. So, I mean, it could be Zvonimir. This David Merkovich kid, there's a guy whose opinion I really trust, who's been watching a lot of tape. And he's the one who pointed out to me that, hey, this guy played better in Europe than Tommy did. And Tommy was older. So he's actually put the ceiling on David Merkovich as being one of the 3 best players on Illinois this upcoming year. If that were to happen, I think this team has Elite 8 Final Four potential, because the 4 spot absolutely is the big question mark. We have the returner, Ben Hummerkaus, but Ben Hummerkaus, I think Illini fans saw enough of him last year to know that he's a good 7th guy, 8th guy. Was someone with zero pressure. I don't know if he's a starting power forward on a championship contending Big Ten team. So I can give you 4 of the 5, but the actual power forward spot, there's 3 options, and even right now, I don't know which one I would pick.
Interesting. And what I love about Hummerkaus is it's a guy that's been around a little bit, has a nice floor where what you're going to get. Like you said, the ceiling is probably not as high as some of the other guys, but he's a guy that's serviceable and is going to do what he's going to do. Sure. And Sunny, I grieved again for you as you talked about that 4 spot, because it feels like if Merez Johnson is on this roster, you feel a lot better about where your front court is at with he and maybe Tommy starting together. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, their games balance each other out so perfectly with that. Yeah, I mean, it would have been a perfect pairing, but Merez is lost.
Oh, man. Okay. One more personnel question, and then we'll go to some roster or some scheduling stuff. What I'd love from you, Sunny, and maybe it's what you mentioned earlier, like, hey, you heard it here first. Give me like a breakout player that people just aren't going to see coming. And it's fine if you got to repeat what you said earlier.
Yeah, it's Petrovic. I'm telling you, his commitment flew under the radar, because right now, I mean, you well know with the North Carolina crowd as well, that Stojakovic recruitment was a very big deal for both of those teams. And so that's right. When he was in Champaign and he's being wined and dined by Underwood and his father was there, a lot of people were making a big deal of signing him onto campus. And out of nowhere, Illinois announced the commitment of this Mihailo Petrovic kid. I had never heard of him in my life. I had basically tried to soak in all the video I can. But Isaac, I'm telling you, I think that he's been completely overlooked. I think spoiler alert right now, one of my surprise picks for this upcoming season is Mihailo Petrovic is going to lead the Big Ten in assists this year. If you watch his game, he is what someone said this in a chat somewhere, and I was like, this is perfect. He is what Andre Curbelo should have been. Like, just fantastic playmaker, and now he's going to be surrounded by shooters, and he's a killer in the sense where for his team in Europe, he was always the guy taking the last shot. And that's the one question mark I kind of did have about next year's team. And now it's not a concern at all. I think Mihailo is going to be that guy.
Okay, we just got to get him to Champaign. What do we got to do, Sonny? We need a fund, a campaign, dude with sign, whatever it is. Get Mihailo Petrovic to Illinois. All right, folks, look. The non-con schedule was released on Monday, and I tell you, it is a toughie, but it's all home and neutral sites, so maybe it's doable. We're going to talk to Sunny about the non-con record and schedule coming up here to wrap the show in just a second. Right after I tell you about Open Phone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, what did you do? You went on and called somebody else, right? That's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers or potential customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Are you out here trying to juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solved that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so that you never miss a customer again. That's so cool. So see why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering Locked On listeners just like you 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. On Monday, Illinois officially released their non-conference schedule. As a reminder, the Big Ten plays 20 conference games. So this year, while we have 31 regular season games, that means 11 non-con games for the Fighting Illini. We've got an exhibition on Sunday, October 19th against Illinois State. Several bye games. I'm not going to list through those, but Sunny, I do want to highlight several high-profile, high-major games. Tuesday, November 11th. Is that Veterans Day? Is that why I'm not good with some of these holidays? They will be playing Texas Tech Wednesday, November 19th, a week and a day later against Alabama in Chicago in the United Center. And then a couple weeks later on Friday, November 28th, that is Black Friday, yes, against UConn at MSG, the world's most famous arena. Saturday, December 6th against Tennessee. That's down in Nashville. Monday, December 22nd against Mizzou in St. Louis. So a whole slew of intriguing non-con games, most of which are on neutral sites. The Texas Tech is a true home game, right, Sonny? Is
Correct.
that right?
Yes.
But dude, we were just talking in between segments, and you made a crazy observation about some of these high major games.
3 of those teams, Texas Tech, Alabama, and Tennessee, Isaac, last year were in the Elite 8. And oh, by the way, the 4th team, UConn, who we both know is going to be UConn again this year.
100%.
So it's just one of those situations where Brad Underwood, he's made this strategic decision years ago that he wants to pile on that non-conference schedule. He's got a guy who really understands the metrics and algorithms of what the committee really looks like. And he's realized that, you know what, it doesn't matter ultimately if you lose to Duke by 40 at MSG, because the metrics will still like that you played that game. And so Brad has basically come in with the mentality of, I'm going to challenge my group, because once the Big Ten season starts, it's going to be physical, it's going to be grinding, and the atmospheres are going to be very ruckus. So let me give them a glimpse of that in the non-con. And so, you know, this is just the normal for us. Last year, we had a very tough schedule as well. Right. This year, again, it doesn't make it any easier. Isaac, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts, because I actually just talked about this on Locked On Illini. Do you like neutral games, neutral court games?
I like a couple. I always prefer true home games, true road games. So I love the trend we've been seeing, Sonny, in the last 4 or 5 years, where teams are scheduling home and homes together, and we get like, is there a return game to Texas Tech? I'm trying to remember that. Is that part of a series?
I believe so. I can't off the top of my head confirm, but I believe so. Yeah.
And so it's like those kind of things is what I love. Like I'm great with one-offs every now and again, or even being part of like a, you know, I know a lot of MTEs are going away because of Players Era, but I like when we're getting these like one-off, like 4 teams are going to the Garden and they're all going to play. You know, that kind of thing is great. But man, there's just something, Sunny, about the environment on campus that just hits different. And I can see by your head nod that that's how you feel too.
Yeah, it's because, like, you know, I enjoy that Tennessee is going to be in Nashville, and then a little while later we're going to have a return game at a neutral spot again. But we just played Tennessee the last 2 years, one at Tennessee and one at the State Farm Center last year. The environment was crazy. The students were all into it, the energy. I think that's what I kind of so much appreciate about college sports, is just that the purity that comes along with that. I'm down the street from the United Center. Okay? I will be there at the Alabama game, but it's not going to be the same when you're sitting in like a corporate crowd as opposed to being with the students and alum and whatnot. So I think that's, for me, it's like if you have one neutral court game per year, I'd be okay with that, and then keep everything else home and home, just because I think that's what makes college sports fun.
Yeah, agreed. And when I look at this, non-con. I'd like to see at least one true road game, right? Like, I'm not saying you got to go on the road 5 times in non-con, but I think there's just something about like if I was a head coach, challenging my team in that kind of environment at least once, or now in this era where we can play high majors in exhibition games, like going on the road for a true road exhibition game, things of that nature. But Sonny, it don't matter where you play some of the teams on this non-con schedule, it's going to be knockdown, drag-out type games, and I'm so excited for it.
The one thing I'm curious on your thought on this too. This is just me, a thought bubble I had in my head is like, you know how Brad Underwood is always trying to challenge his team and get them ready for March. I almost wonder if these neutral site games are kind of on purpose to mimic what it would be like in March. You know, you're not necessarily playing at the homes of UConn or whatnot. It's a neutral court. You're supposed to have 50-50 fans. I almost wonder to myself if that's what Brad Underwood's line of thinking is with this schedule.
I can tell you that that's what Mike Krzyzewski did all the time. People always were like, why doesn't Duke ever play true road games? And his reasoning was exactly what you just laid out, Sonny. In the NCAA tournament, you don't play true road or true home games. You are on a neutral site floor. The pushback to him was always, yeah, but to get the best seed you can, you got to go on the road in conference 8 or 10 times, depending on how many, or 9, depending on how many conference games you play. So you got to get ready for those. And so I can see both sides of that logic. Like, one helps you build your resume and seed, but the other prepares you for those games that come on the back end of it. And I think both of those make sense to me. And so it's always just fun to see how teams decide to build these schedules. Obviously, for the Big Ten, we don't yet have the conference dates of the actual games, but we do know Illinois' opponents. The home and away games are Maryland, Nebraska, and Northwestern. The away only is Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, USC. So got to make that West Coast trip, and to Purdue and to Michigan State. Home only is Indiana. We'll take that. Michigan, as Sonny said earlier, and Merez Johnson coming back. Minnesota, Oregon, Rutgers, Washington, and Wisconsin. So there's the mix. Sonny, I know we don't know the breakdown of it or the order and all that stuff. If you had to project ahead, give me like a conference record for Illinois, and give me where you think they will ultimately wind up in the NCAA tournament in terms of like seeding.
You know, if I had to guess right now, I think Purdue, it's very easy to say Purdue's the runaway favorite in the Big Ten Conference. And I know a lot of people like Michigan, and I concede that they've brought a lot of talent to Ann Arbor. I'm just not as sold as everyone else about how the mix is going to fit together. So for me, I have Illinois as high as second in the Big Ten Conference. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to, but I think they've got as reasonable shot as a Michigan, as a UCLA. I've heard Oregon also being mentioned in that group. So we'll see. Anywhere from 2 to 4 is probably where I had to guess right now. I do think that Brad Underwood's got a challenge, especially after the schedule we just went through. He's one of 3 or 4 coaches, I believe, that has won 20 games every season for the last 5 or 6. So it's going to be a challenge to continue that streak. But overall, again, I think it's going to be top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten Conference, maybe even second, as high as second. But I think what I'm more optimistic about this team as compared to last year's team is it's not going to be reliant on the mentalities of 2 18-year-olds. I think this team is much more mature. It's had experience in much more crazier environments out in Europe. And some of these players, have played against grown men. I think this team is going to be more than ready, and more ready than last year's team for what comes in March.
Man, and that's good news. I really like that range you talked about. And what the good news is for Illinois fans is, regardless of that 2 to 4 in the Big Ten, that's a double bye come Big Ten tournament. And that's what you're ultimately trying to get to. And that makes a lot of sense. Sonny, I'm right with you. I've been saying all offseason, I'm not as high on Michigan as a lot of people are. And I know your fan base is going to be glad to hear me say that. That's good stuff. Man, I said this to you before we started recording. I am amped for this Illinois team. I'm so curious to see how all the pieces fit together, how Brad Underwood stirs the pot. If we get another middle school team could score on this team, it's going to be so much fun, man. I'm excited to check in with you as the offseason rolls along, as we hopefully get Mihailo Petrovic to campus, and then we get this thing rolling, man. Folks, if you have not already followed Locked On Illini, make sure you do that. If you're not following, man, that hat, dude, it looks so good. Way to go, Sunny. If you're not following Sunny on Twitter at Talk Illini, again, a great handle. I'm so jealous of it. Make sure you check out that show. Make sure you also check out Locked On College Basketball if you're not subscribed on YouTube and audio, so you catch all of these team previews, conference previews, and everything else we're doing this offseason leading up. Also, if you've not joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, we'd love to see you in there. That link is in the show notes, and it's absolutely free to join. As always, I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family, especially if the Illini take first place away from that young man. Shouts to the McBruins. Let's go Wild Popes, and until tomorrow's show.
Peace.